I'm telling you, this doesn't feel right. Why would he send us back here?
For what?
We don't know.
Look, I'm not trying to be difficult, but in terms of my own comfort...
Time's up.
What?
Maya steps out of the club and is heading home while on a call with her sister. As she walks past a van, she suddenly disappears. Morgan is struggling to take her mind off the weird game and the incident that followed when she hears her son scream from the living room. She rushes in and finds him having a pillow fight with Ludo, his father, so she joins in, disturbing Ava, who's trying to concentrate. Just then, Selena, her boss, walks in, and the two talk about the necessary lockdown Morgan's family has to endure because of the game maker and the danger he poses.
I don't know what's worse, being stalked by a deranged psychopath or having to lie to my kids about it.
There's no need to scare them. We're gonna catch this guy soon.
Selena promises they'll catch the culprit, then adds that everyone at the office can't wait to have Morgan back. Back at the office, the team refuses to go home after vowing to catch the suspect. Morgan calls Adam, and the two discuss the culprit, with Morgan frustrated that the sketch she worked so hard on hasn't produced any leads. The next morning, Morgan steps out to give Chester a meal after he kept watch over the house all night. As she turns to leave, she notices something indicating a letter in the mailbox. Chester insists no one stop by, so she retrieves the mail and realizes it's been delivered to the wrong address. She tries to locate the correct address, but when she reaches a house, it triggers something in her. She tries calling the office, but gets no response, so she heads there. At the office, she tells her colleagues that the game maker intentionally led her there, guiding her to a house connected to her trigger. She's convinced there's a reason she was drawn to that place. Then a name comes up: Maya. Sarah, sitting nearby, says that's her sister, and she's been missing since the previous night after going out with colleagues. Morgan wonders why she was led to Maya's house, but continues asking questions that don't lead anywhere. Morgan and Adam head to the area where Maya was last seen. Morgan is certain she was abducted and gives a detailed explanation of how the abduction likely occurred. They find items Maya must have dropped during the struggle, including her heel. Adam buys into Morgan's theory and they swing into action. When they learn that Maya had applied for a gun, they suspect she did it to protect herself, either from her ex-husband Derek or from something else. They search her house for clues. While others find nothing, Morgan finds traces of expensive items and concludes they've been sold. She convinces the team, and Adam splits them into two groups. Morgan heads to the boneyard, where Fritz reveals that a man had an altercation with Maya there. It turns out to be Derek, so they call him in. He maintains his innocence, but mentions someone has been sending Maya expensive gifts. They call in Harper, Maya's colleague, who shares her side of the story. Jason, their boss, gets mentioned, and Harper agrees he's likely been sending Maya the expensive gifts. Morgan writes down her thoughts and identifies Jason as the suspect, then immediately questions how she linked him to the game maker so easily, saying it doesn't make sense. Selena doesn't think Morgan should be on the case since she isn't an actual cop, but Adam insists she stays. They pay Jason a visit at his party, and he confirms that Maya has been using his credit card to buy expensive things, but he says he had no role in her disappearance. He says he didn't even fire her and hopes they find her. Before they leave, Morgan notices the samurai swords has one missing. They don't leave the party yet, and Morgan keeps poking around. She spots someone fitting the game maker's description and calls Adam over. When they corner someone, it turns out to be Jason, so they arrest him for Maya's kidnapping. Morgan insists she saw the real game maker separately, but he escaped. With Jason refusing to talk, Morgan doubts he knows anything about Maya's disappearance. The rest of the team thinks Morgan is too on edge and not thinking clearly, but she argues she's more invested in the case than anyone. Maya's car is reported by someone, and when the team gets there, they find blood-stained clothes and a samurai sword in the trunk. They prepare to head to Nevada, but Morgan remembers that Derek arrived at the station the moment Jason was arrested, meaning someone must have tipped him off, and he's certain it was the game maker. She connects the dots. The game maker has been sending Maya the gifts, and two of the gifts are significant because their brand founders were murdered, meaning the game maker is likely planning a murder. She also explains that everything he did with Maya was simply to get to Jason, and he's smart enough to make Derek believe Jason is responsible for Maya's disappearance, driving Derek toward revenge. As the team brainstorms at the station, someone who looks exactly like the game maker walks in.
Excuse me. Apparently you're looking for me.
With the armed Derek on his way to carry out his revenge, Adam gives a hot chase but loses him in a car lot. His team calls him back, informing him that the game maker has turned himself in. The man says he surrendered because he saw his face plastered across the news and wants to clear his name. A background check shows nothing incriminating as he's just a regular guy living around the corner. He gives his name as Matthew. Adam tells him people have been abducted by a man who looks exactly like him, and coincidentally, every abducted victim attends the same grief support group. He does. Adam presses for answers, but Matthew refuses to engage. This frustrates Morgan, who notices details she thinks they can use, but Selena insists it's not enough. Adam grows irritated with Matthew mocking the process and then leaves the interrogation room. Adam is angry that Morgan is buzzing his phone, but Morgan insists they need to go harder on Matthew. When Matthew requests a snack, Morgan believes it aligns with the game maker's plan, so they find a way to counter it. They release Jason, but explain that someone has been playing a game with everyone. They also warn him that Derek is being manipulated into coming after him, and then offer police protection. Morgan gets a call from Ludo about the situation at home, about the kids complaining of being stuck indoors all day. Meanwhile, Matthew begins talking aloud as if addressing Morgan directly.
Don't blink. You swerve, you lose.
While she's focused on his words, Selena interrupts to report a bomb scare in town. Morgan and the squad arrive at the scene, immediately thinking of Matthew. They suspect he turned himself in to create a solid alibi. At the same time, Oz and Daphne track a man named Roman, someone frequently mentioned in another case after refusing to speak with them. They send Morgan a picture, and she confirms the person they're following isn't Roman, raising questions about why someone is impersonating him. Selena interrogates Matthew, who maintains he's innocent and even allows them to search his apartment. With only 1 hour left before the bomb detonates, Adam feels the pressure. At Matthew's home, Morgan finds a clue suggesting he is declaring war on them. Matthew's earlier comment about who blinks first comes back to mind, and Morgan recalls stories of abducted victims sending messages by blinking. They pull up Maya's video and realize she's blinking a coded message, Morse code revealing a location. They also determine the code isn't from Maya herself. Someone is telling her exactly how to blink to lead them where he wants. As they return to the station, Matthew is being released, telling them he hopes they find what they're looking for. Following the Morse code, they arrive at Morgan's apartment to search it. The bomb's timer winds down, and then a car nearby explodes. Back at the station, Jason panics.
You've got to be kidding me. That bomb was in one of your cars, Lieutenant.
And until we know more, you're still safer with us, believe me.
How are you going to protect me? You can't even protect yourselves.
The team wonders why Matthew is targeting the police and concludes he intended Adam's car to blow up at Jason's residence to undermine police protection. Meanwhile, the guy impersonating Roman continues refusing to talk to Oz and Daphne. At home, Morgan wants everyone to support Elliot's school activity. She talks to him privately and he says something that strikes her.
But sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war.
Right. Maybe I'm not supposed to win.
Morgan realizes this applies to her situation and decides to lose the battle to win the war. She unexpectedly visits Matthew. She tells him she's quitting and brings up his comment about the game of chicken. She says she wants to swerve now to protect her family and let him win. Matthew doesn't believe her, even with her explanations. He claims he doesn't know where Maya is, but advises her to take the stairs when she leaves. They spot Derek heading out to go kill Jason, while Morgan suspects Maya is being held in an apartment. Morgan breaks in and finds her, while Adam locates Jason, just as Derek arrives, pointing a gun at him. Through a phone call, Maya convinces Derek she's alive, and he drops the gun and surrenders. They try to pin Maya's kidnapping on Matthew, but his alibi is airtight. They also notice the kidnapper didn't injure Maya, raising questions about the blood on the clothes and the sword in the trunk. Morgan visits Matthew again, and tells him she knows about his warped childhood and how he orchestrated the entire game. Matthew, shocked that she figured him out, explains that it was a battle against the rich and that he never actually hurt anyone. He mentions the ill meted out on his mom and how people like Jason get away with their crimes. He says he won't die in prison like his mother and jumps over the balcony, only to land on a foam cushion Morgan prepared in advance. Officers arrest him for the kidnappings. Morgan makes it to her son's school event. Afterwards, she meets Arthur, the man impersonating Roman, who reveals Roman sent him to watch over her and Ava because she's the only person he trusts. Nathan walks into an open-air restaurant, settles into his seat, and waits for his date to arrive. As he relaxes, someone quietly sneaks up from behind and suddenly covers his face with a nylon bag, suffocating him while he desperately struggles to catch his breath. Meanwhile, Morgan is at home with Ava, who asks again about finding her dad. Morgan reassures her daughter that they'll find him soon, even though she can't be entirely certain. Moments later, Morgan receives a text from work and heads to a new crime scene. It turns out the victim is the same man from the restaurant, Nathan, now found unconscious and fighting for his life. At the scene, Morgan pieces things together and realizes the culprit deliberately manipulated the environment, placing Nathan at that particular spot so the attack could be carried out unnoticed. The detectives head to Nathan's house and quickly find evidence that he was a heavy gambler and likely deep in debt. Just as they're searching, someone tries to enter the house. When he sees the police, he panics, runs, and dashes toward his partner waiting by a car. Morgan shouts to the driver that the cops are coming, spooking him enough to drive off and abandon his accomplice. Adam manages to catch the runner, and they find an empty syringe on him. Under pressure, he finally reveals the name of his boss. The team pays a visit to Ray, the boss. Morgan uses charm and sharp observation to keep him off guard long enough to talk. She explains everything they've pieced together. Ray didn't attack Nathan directly, but he sent the henchman to finish the job by injecting him with an empty syringe, essentially trying to carry out the murder in a way that looked natural. Morgan believes Nathan owed Ray a massive debt, and if Nathan died, Ray would benefit through Nathan's insurance policy, especially since Ray's social security number is listed alongside Nathan's insurance details. Ray doesn't deny any of it, but Morgan quickly senses he isn't the mastermind behind the attack. The team leaves without making an arrest. They call in Nathan's daughter next, Jessica, who recently reconciled with him after years apart. She's shocked to hear about the insurance policy and even more confused when told her name had been removed in favor of Ray. She explains that Nathan told her he was going away, but didn't elaborate. Later, overwhelmed and heartbroken, Jessica visits the hospital to talk about donating her father's organs, since he is now brain dead. Morgan begins forming a deeper theory. Whoever attacked Nathan didn't just want him dead, they wanted him found precisely at the point where he was brain dead, but with his organs intact, someone was trying to harvest his heart. Selena and Adam speak with the paramedics who handled Nathan's case, and their answers confirm Morgan's suspicion. Back at the station, Morgan pushes her theory further.
I think there's more. Nathan was in on it.
The cardiac workup. He was making sure his heart was in good shape.
Right, we already knew that he was planning on killing himself.
Nathan had arranged with someone to give them his heart.
But then he found out he was going to become a grandfather and he changed his mind, so the killer had to kill him.
Unbelievable.
They go to the hospital to determine who was scheduled to receive Nathan's heart, but the staff member they question becomes nervous and evasive, claiming she can't recall the details. Minutes later, Morgan gets a call that Ava has vandalized a mural of her father. When Morgan arrives, the situation escalates, and Morgan ends up detained alongside her daughter. After they're released, Morgan continues reviewing files. Ava, who's sitting beside her, helps point out one suspicious name, Carson. The team heads to Carson's home and discovers he is already en route to a different hospital for a heart transplant. He has no idea what happened to Nathan. This new information switches Morgan's focus. She suddenly remembers Bishop, the paramedic at the scene, who has a very sick mother in desperate need of a heart transplant. Digging deeper, Morgan uncovers that Bishop previously treated Nathan and knew everything about his medical condition. He realized Nathan's heart was a perfect match for his mother. Desperate, he orchestrated the attack and tried to make Nathan's death look self-inflicted so the heart donation wouldn't be questioned. They visit Bishop's mother at the hospital and find that she's completely unaware of her son's involvement. The detectives arrest Bishop and ensure that Nathan's heart goes to a different, eligible recipient. Later at the station, Morgan hands Jessica her father's belongings but seeks clarity.
Your dad was absent your whole life and you let him back in. How did you do that?
Guess that's how my mom raised me.
A woman screams out of fear and immediately calls 911 to report a murder. At the station, Morgan and the team are chatting when the call comes in, so they rush to the scene. But when they arrive, the same woman, Raina, insists she never made such a call. Morgan senses something off and scans the environment, noticing little irregularities in how Raina moves and behaves. She tries to probe deeper, but Raina holds her ground, refusing to say more. Adam steps in and stops Morgan from pushing, so the team leaves. Not long after, another distress call comes in. Raina has now been found dead in her apartment. The detectives head over immediately. While searching the apartment, they identify reasons to talk to her neighbor, the man who threw a party that same night. He deals drugs, so when the cops begin to ask the hard questions and call out his illegal dealings, he bolts. The detective chases him down, catches him, and arrests him. He insists he only supplied Raina with drugs for her migraines and says that at the time she supposedly called 911, he was physically with her. Adam and Morgan head to Raina's basement, the location from which the mysterious call was made. Inside, they discover she suffered from dementia, which complicates everything. They also find a blood-stained cloth. Morgan processes it first and factors in her health.
So Raina did witness a murder.
The question is, when did she see it?
Back at the station, to figure out exactly when the murder she witnessed occurred, they filter unsolved murders that match the circumstances. One case stands out, Greta, a woman who died 25 years ago. Morgan thinks the two cases are linked and that Raina saw something decades ago that recently resurfaced. They visit a mutual acquaintance, a man who knew both Greta and Raina back in the day. He tells them both women were popular singers, bitter rivals in the same music scene. He also mentions their manager, Mac, describing him as intense, unstable, and overly demanding. The detectives also meet Lucy, the last person Raina called, and Lucy is devastated by Raina's death. The team rules Lucy out and focuses on Mac as the prime suspect. When they visit him, he tries to act tough, but Morgan questions him aggressively, asking him why he bought Raina a house right after Greta's murder. Mac claims the house was simply payment in exchange for Raina's music rights. Morgan notices his tattoo, an identical design to one Greta had. then accuses him of killing Greta in the nightclub. By spraying her with poison confetti, Mac gets visibly uncomfortable and angrily orders them to leave. Later, while studying old photos of Greta, Morgan realizes Greta was pregnant and gave birth to a child while Mac was in prison. Then Greta worked hard to hide the child from him. With the bullet holes found on Greta's body and a scar on Mac's hand, they conclude Mac shot her twice and then the gun jammed, injuring his hand. She thinks Raina likely witnessed all of this 25 years ago. Adam heads to the club to find Mac. When Mac sees him, he tries to escape, grabbing a woman and using her as a human shield. He screams that he'd never go back to prison. Mac poses an immediate threat, so Adam fires, stopping the man from being a danger. Internal Affairs arrives soon after, and since Adam shot first, he must undergo a mandatory evaluation before returning to duty. He pleads with Solomon, who promises to fasten it. After Adam leaves, the Internal Affairs guy quietly warns Selena about Morgan.
I've heard some things about this consultant.
Then you know how invaluable she is.
Her value comes with a lot of things that make me nervous. The kind of nervous that has me looking at your reports a bit more often.
What happens with my squad is none of your business.
Until it is. Good night, Selena.
Once they check Mac's alibi for the time of Raina's murder, they discover he wasn't even in town when she died. Yes, he killed Greta, but someone else killed Raina. Morgan thinks the killer must be someone deeply connected to both Greta and Raina, and someone who knew every person involved in the case. She suggests one possibility, Greta's long-hidden child. They confront Lucy and reveal everything. They accuse her of killing Raina for revenge after learning the older woman knew the truth about Greta's death. Morgan lays out the full chain of events, and Lucy breaks down, admitting she did visit Raina. She insists she never intended to kill her. During a heated confrontation, she pushed Raina by accident and Raina fell down the stairs, striking her head on the floor. Lucy cries as she tries to defend herself, but Adam calmly tells her,
Lucy, we got justice for your mom. And now we have to do the same thing for Raina.
Later, Morgan speaks with Adam privately. She acknowledges his earlier concerns about her not taking care of herself. Afterwards, she heads to Selena's office. Selena is upset about being passed over for Captain, and Morgan encourages her to acknowledge those feelings instead of bottling them up. Selena vents her frustrations for a moment before regaining composure. Mission accomplished, so Morgan leaves. At the elevator, she meets a well-dressed man who compliments her reputation. As she steps out, he smiles and finally introduces himself as Nick, the new captain. Two young boys are flying a drone for fun near a lake. They're laughing and trying tricks when the drone suddenly spirals out of control and crashes straight into a pool. As they check the drone's camera feed, the screen shows a dead body submerged in the pool. The boys panic and run as fast as they can. At the station, Nick gathers the entire squad for his official introduction. He gives a firm, polished speech about wanting to serve properly and run a clean, highly functional department. He mentions wanting one-on-one meetings with each squad member and temporarily uses Selena's office as his base. Before he can begin the private sessions, a call comes in about the dead body from the lake, and it's a woman named Tori. They head to Tori's house, where they discover multiple passports under different names, along with evidence of constant international travels. A deeper look reveals she wasn't just a traveler, but an investigative journalist who was likely working on something dangerous. They trace her last known photo to a cloud house full of young content creators shooting content, partying, and living in as they like. The moment the detectives reveal that Tori is dead, the creators are shocked, and when questioned, none of them claim to know anything, with one even suggesting a rogue follower might have killed her. Later, the detectives examine a lab room in the house, and while Morgan is handling chemicals, the creators suddenly rush in to confess that they killed Tori. But as soon as Adam mentions she was actually shot, they get further confused and stunned because none of them shot her. They explain that it was a harmless prank, a revenge for Tori stealing their protein powder, which absolutely wouldn't have caused her death. As the detectives talk, Phineas, the missing member of the group, briefly appears, panics at the sight of police, and bolts. Morgan makes a quick stop home to tell Ava that Arthur has finally agreed to hand over the backpack he's been withholding, the very one that might hold crucial information about Roman. Phineas is soon caught and interrogated. With Morgan's brilliance, he admits to tampering with Tori's body out of fear, but insists he didn't kill her. With the case wide open again, the detectives comb through Tori's belongings and notice an unusual focus on a certain brand of protein powder. They track down Bobby, a man Tori once wrote an extremely harsh report on while in school, which led to him doxing her back then. Bobby owns the protein brand, so they pull him in. Bobby admits he made childish mistakes when he was younger, and even regrets publicly humiliating Tori. When he hears she's dead, he's shocked and insists he had nothing to do with it. He allows Morgan to search freely, and she determines he was at the gym. At the time, Tori was shot. Meanwhile, Nick continues doing private meetings with each squad member, and it's Adam's turn. Nick praises his increased case-solving rate ever since partnering with Morgan.
You were smart to claim her as your partner.
You don't know Morgan if you think anyone can claim her.
Morgan later meets with Arthur for the backpack exchange, and Ava unexpectedly shows up, which pushes Arthur to finally agree to hand it over. The team heads to Serenity Arms, a place Bobby regularly visited. The owner speaks fondly of Bobby, calling him kind and generous. He mentions that Bobby used to talk about a woman named Tori and once said he wished he'd handled things differently years ago. The owner suggests Bobby might have viewed Tori as a threat, but doubts he'd ever escalate to murder. Not long after, the detectives find Bobby dead in his office, with hard drugs on his table. It looks like an overdose, and many on the team assume he killed himself because the protein company was actually a front for drug distribution, but Morgan sees it differently. She explains that the drugs were placed in his food, staged to look like self-deletion. Even though the gun found at the scene matches the weapon used to shoot Tori, she's convinced someone else, someone smarter, killed them both. Her theory is right. The owner of Serenity Arms is revealed to be the mastermind. He used Bobby's protein company to ship drugs with the help of Lamar. When Tori discovered the truth and called Bobby for confirmation, he knew Tori was getting too close, so he killed her. With the police closing in, he killed Bobby too, framing him for everything and tying off loose ends. Case closed. Morgan tries to avoid her one-on-one meeting with Nick, but he intercepts her as she steps out. They have a brief but sharp conversation where she openly states all her assumptions about him. He listens, intrigued, and she is almost entirely right about his personality. At home, she's still furious at Ava for showing up at the meeting with Arthur, and they argue. Moments later, there's a knock at the door and it's a package. The backpack from Arthur, the very item that may hold the truth about Roman, finally in Morgan's hands. A group of young people sneak into a compound to pull a Halloween prank when they suddenly see a man who looks like he's being possessed by a demon. Morgan doesn't check the content of the backpack before heading to the crime scene where Danny is found dead. They talk about what the younger trio said they saw and run with it. Daphne shows up with a story about the house being haunted by Maddie's ghost, but no one takes her seriously. The sketch from the young trio comes out, and it looks exactly like a ghost. A report comes in that Danny suffered a heart attack, making Adam conclude his death was natural. But when Oz notices salt all over the house, Morgan and the others agree that someone made Danny believe ghosts were haunting him and used that fear to give him a heart attack. They go see Calliope, Danny's spiritual advisor, who claims she was helping him remove negative energy from his house. Morgan notices the high fee she charges and some irregularities, so she calls the lady a fraud. Calliope reminds them that killing a client would be bad for her business and insists she had nothing to do with it. They go back to the house and Morgan hears weird noises in the ceiling. She grabs a weapon, but it's only a rat running around. She finds a vent with a bag. Inside, Adam goes into the basement and finds a ghost-like figure. He chases it as it runs toward Morgan and pushes her down, but Adam gets there in time and discovers it's just a lady wearing a wedding dress who claims she didn't do anything. Morgan goes home to make dinner, but Ava doesn't talk to her because she's still angry about being grounded. At the station, Nick insists on interrogating the suspect alone, and Selena lets him. He subtly threatens to ruin the woman's public image if she doesn't confess, and she eventually says that Lorraine, Danny's ex-wife, paid her to haunt Danny, just like the situation with Dash and Maddie. They visit Lorraine and she admits she paid to scare Danny, but never to kill him. Morgan believes her and suggests Danny was poisoned and that the ghost prank was just a cover the killer used. Tests are carried out on the pills found in Danny's house, and they confirm it's potassium chloride. They return to the house after realizing there might be a hidden room. They find it, and inside they find diamonds, something anyone could kill for. But after questioning all the suspects, Morgan decides the real suspect is Calliope, the advisor, so they send a familiar face, Nichols, to talk to her.
I went there this morning. The police released the house to me. Maybe it's all the stress talking, but I felt him there. Well, energy can linger, but then he could be in pain, trapped. Wait, could you help him? Of course. I would recommend a clearing ritual. All I would need is a few hours to myself in the house, and then I think we can put him to rest.
She goes inside and heads straight for the hidden room to grab the diamond, but the lights come on and the detectives arrest her. Adam explains the whole setup to her, and she realizes they caught her perfectly. Morgan gets home, and Ava gives a kind of half apology, saying her action to crash the meeting with Arthur is what younger Morgan would have done, and while she's not sorry for doing it, she's sorry for how her mom felt. They hug it out, and Morgan even tells her she can attend the Halloween party. Morgan then takes her inside and shows her an item in the backpack. It's a painting Ava made in first grade, and the only question is how her dad got it. The answer is obvious. He was around without showing himself. There's a heist at a museum where the Rembrandt is stolen, and the guard gets knocked out. On her way to the station, Arthur calls Morgan to complain that he might be followed, but Morgan can't help. At the moment, she reaches the station and tells her superior and partner about Roman's backpack, needing their help to figure out how its contents could help her cause. Just then, Nick shows up to inform them about the theft, and the team heads straight to the museum. Morgan puts on her thinking hat and notices that this wasn't the work of just any thief, as he only took one painting while more expensive ones were left untouched. Nick introduces Reese, a smart guy hired by the insurance company to help find the Rembrandt painting to avoid a big payout from them. Morgan and Reese start off trading subtle digs at each other's suggestions. They visit the last owner of the painting, Greg Foster and his wife, who had loaned it out for visibility. They dig deeper and discover that many heists have happened with the same method, and the stolen paintings always cost a certain amount. One name comes up, Jean-Baptiste, but Reese thinks the man is just a myth. They track down a man who's been claiming to be the rightful owner for a while, so they visit him. Ari's grandma says they bought the painting years ago, but it was stolen by the Nazis during the war. When she tried to buy it back, $20 million was too much, and even in court they couldn't prove it was stolen. Adam notices that Ari is athletic and could have easily broken into the museum, so he asks where he was. The previous night, Ari says he was with the old woman. Morgan asks why he had been visiting the gallery recently, and he says he just wanted to take a photo of the painting for his grandma. At the station, Selena helps Morgan figure out what they can find in Roman's backpack, telling Nick it's just a cold case. Adam questions workers from the museum, and one woman mentions a man acting strange near the Rembrandt. When shown Ari's picture, she confirms it's him. Adam slams a photo of Ari and his grandma on the board, but Morgan thinks they are just victims who had their property stolen years ago. Reese gets a call, then leaves, and Morgan follows him.
Who was that?
Excuse me?
Who was that? You said that thieves love to talk to people, and sometimes those people call you. Was that people calling?
A man called. Claims he knows where the painting is. He wants to meet with me to discuss.
Reese doesn't say where because police presence could scare the man off and the painting could be lost forever. Morgan insists she isn't a cop and joins him. Selena grows frustrated with how little they've uncovered from Roman's backpack. Just then, Oz and Daphne show up with news, a photo of a person of interest. Reese and Morgan reach the museum, break through a police seal to access the rooftop. Staff show up to them and hand a letter meant for Reese, telling him to meet at a certain place and time. Back at the station, Nick is furious that Morgan took Reese to tamper with an active crime scene. She apologizes and tries to explain her reasoning, but Nick isn't having it and orders that he and Adam will take over the case while the two consultants sit back. Morgan, fed up, takes Reese out for a drink. Adam speaks with the Fosters about the painting. They just want good news. The idea of a ransom rattles them, but Adam reassures them that everything will be fine. At home, Ava tests her mom's clothes and finds Arthur's card. She calls him to ask a question that's been bothering her. She wants to know how much she takes after her dad. Arthur worries about vexing Morgan, but shares that Roman is a good, stand-up guy. Adam takes the wheel, and Nick notices him bottling up frustrations. He asks Adam about it. Adam says Morgan is just confused, and Nick admits he is too. He wants to know what's going on so he can help if things go wrong. Adam sternly tells him to try a different approach next time he wants to correct Morgan, or he'll take on the battle himself. Nick just smirks and looks away. During a stakeout for the painting thief, Nick reveals that he knows that Morgan is looking for someone named Roman. Before Adam can react, they see a carjacking. Against Nick's orders, Adam jumps out to stop it, and the painting thief speeds off. Adam goes in hot pursuit, and Nick takes over the car about to be stolen, joining the chase. The chase ends badly for the officers as the thief maneuvers away and escapes. Meanwhile, Morgan and Reese have drinks at a bar, and he makes a move on her. She falls for him, and as they kiss in an apartment, she notices a gunshot wound on his shoulder, the same spot Jean-Baptiste was shot in one of his heists. Everything he said that could give him away plays in her mind while he keeps kissing her. Just then, Adam calls about a killing at the museum. While Selena works on solving the Roman mystery, Roman himself shows up in Arthur's car and startles him.
Where is it? I want that backpack.
And that is how it ended. If you've made it to the end, hit the like button, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next recap.